You don't want the best kids. You want to understand the sorrows. The sorrows of the common man. Celise, please.
I do want the best kids. I want my kids to be the strongest kids in the Little League. Let me be a sports dad with my ghost dad.
Hello and welcome to episode 88 of Rhythm Encounter, the RPG fan music podcast. I'm your host, Mike Salbato, and today we are talking about strategy RPGs. Our title sort of gave that away, if you're really thinking visually about strategy RPGs, because most of the time they do take place on a square grid, although at least one of our games today uses hexagons, just to be different.
Yep.
I don't know if we have any circles today, mostly just squares and hexagons.
I didn't bring anything in from Phantom Brave or Makai Kingdom, so I think we're going to stick to polygons this time.
Okay. Should we call it Polygon Dance? I like Square Dance better.
I don't know, man. Like Square Dance might make people think that this is like music of old school Square RPGs. So I don't know. I was mostly just having nightmare flashbacks to the Square Dance segments we had to do for a month in gym class every year in elementary school.
Oh, the horror.
I don't suppose you have any photos of that.
No, absolutely not. I think some kind of local Square Dance organization like paid all of the elementary schools to have Square Dancing as a segment every year, and everyone hated it. But at least we can now fold it into a Rhythm Encounter episode title.
Exactly. I mean, it was your idea of a title, so I liked it. Anyway, yes. So also joining me today to talk about strategy music is Michael Sollosi.
That's me, yeah. I like Square games. I like games with squares in them. Don't have great feelings about Square Dancing. Bow to your partner, bow to your corner.
But it's still in your head. Also with us is Audra Bowling.
Hello.
And Niki Fakhoori.
Hello.
I'm not saying that we had a very spirited half-hour pre-discussion about Fire Emblem today, but I think it's safe to say that we're all ready to talk about these games and their music.
I am fired up for Fire Emblem.
Okay. Well, for now, put it on the back burner because Fire Emblem is not till later in the episode.
We're ablaze.
Fire Emblem Blazing Sword. That's a great one. Yeah, Elwood, Hector, Lynn, big fan.
We are starting with you, though, Sollosi, just to hop in here. Not with Fire Emblem, but if you want to introduce your first track, we can talk about it.
Sure. First track of the episode is Desert Land from Final Fantasy Tactics, composed by Hitoshi Sakimoto, with that being the game that got me into strategy RPGs.
Yeah, actually, it was my first one, too.
Mine too.
Perfect. Well,
mine not.
The right place to start. I know, it's not Fire Emblem, Niki.
It's okay.
Audra, you have our second song. What are we going with next?
We'll be going with Allies of Fate from Noriyuki Iwadare from the Langrisser 1 and 2 OST. It's a Langrisser 2 track from the report?
Okay.
Remake? I don't know how you'd classify it.
I think it's considered a remake, yeah.
Okay.
All right. Let's go listen to Desert Land from Final Fantasy Tactics and Allies of Fate from Langrisser 2.
Right. So, Desert Land from Final Fantasy Tactics. The name is a little misleading. This isn't like it doesn't really only play in deserts or in a special desert. It's one of the random battle songs that they cycle through, and it's a lot of the time it like the song will play when you're in a forest in the rain or something. So like again, Desert Land is a little bit misleading, but I just like how the entire tone of the Final Fantasy Tactics soundtrack is very stately. It feels like it feels like a concert orchestra with a lot of even though like the 1997 PS1 synth strings and horns can sometimes sound a little funky, but this song is sort of, it feels like a concert orchestra with influences from almost more from classical music than from older video game music, and how the exchange of voices between the horns and strings, and how it starts off more serene, but with this very rhythmic strings behind it, and eventually sounds more and more not really serious, more and more like dangerous, more and more dire, until it's sort of like it eases back into a loop again. The loop is only like 90 seconds for this song, but it is like either this or Apotheosis is my favorite regular battle track from Final Fantasy Tactics. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, it's a good song. I've loved the Final Fantasy Tactics OST. I was torn between choosing a track for it for this podcast myself, actually. But, I mean, Desert Land is just, it's a really fun battle theme, I think. And I really love the instrumentation in it and the loop.
Yeah, it was definitely my first thought too, but Sollosi beat me to it. So I had to get more creative with my choices, but it's the strategy RPG soundtrack I'm most familiar with. And I don't really have any complaints about any of the soundtrack. I don't really have any complaints about his work on anything, whether it's Tactics or Final Fantasy 12 or any of the Ivalice games, I guess. But I like the melody here. It has this like determination factor to it, which I think is sort of what you were talking about, Sollosi. And it's like it somehow like has this sense of determination, but it's still somewhat understated in I think some of the instrument choices.
I just realized I said Apotheosis. I meant to say Apoplexy when I said my other favorite FF Tactics track.
Gotcha.
So I apologize. I apologize for that. I know that there's listeners out there screaming at me, there's nothing Apotheosis on Final Fantasy Tactics, but I think the whole soundtrack is special to me because FF Tactics was my introduction to strategy RPGs, and I think probably also my introduction to Sakimoto soundtracks and Matsuno video games. Probably, I'd have to really double check lists for that, but I played it for the first time probably right around 99 or 2000, and it being this super cool class system and politically driven story with great music, great extremely fun gameplay, Final Fantasy sort of imagery layered over that. It was just it was a complete mind blow to me, and it's a game that I've replayed several times over the years. But and Niki, you mentioned that this was not your introduction. Have you played FF Tactics?
No. I played the one on the Game Boy Advance.
Ooh.
That game is good, but I just hope the rumors of a new port / remake are true, because I really think this is a special video game, and more people should play it. Even though I
agree.
I mean, wishing that more people would play it is a little ridiculous, because it's an extremely popular game, especially among our niche fandom. But yeah, it's brilliant. It's a masterpiece.
Yes.
I'm hoping it does pan out. I mean, we're still waiting on whatever happened with that like sneaky Tactics Ogre thing on PSN.
That would
waiting
be awesome
for confirmation on that.
Yeah, you see trademarks floating around, but at least we do know that Square Enix is very interested in having their older games made available on new systems, because they are one of several Japanese companies that's very aggressively putting out their old catalog, and I think that could happen for Final Fantasy Tactics, but I'm not, and if it has remixed music, of course I'll listen to all of it, but the OG version of Apoplexy and Desert Land and all these and Antidote and all these classics is so nostalgic for me. And again, I used the word stately before. It really is video game music that feels like it's ready for like a concert hall full performance in a way that is not in a pretentious way, but just in a this music is of that certain type and instrumentation and absolutely kick ass at the same time.
Oh, man, I would love to hear this live.
Yes.
I don't know why Tactics doesn't like make it into like their Final Fantasy concerts and stuff, because that would be wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to Distant Worlds once and and video game VGO once. And I definitely remember a lot of Final Fantasy music in general, but nothing from Tactics to my memory. So yeah, I wonder maybe if it's either a preference of the showrunners or Sakimoto not interested in having their music made available. But that's at least interesting. I mean, I would listen to a full concert if one was semi-convenient.
Yeah, definitely. Niki, did you have any thoughts, or do we want to talk about Langrisser?
Well, I'm glad that it was pointed out that this wasn't only a desert theme, because when I listened to it, I was thinking, wow, this sounds like a rainforest, and that's pretty cool. But that's like the opposite of a desert, which is also kind of neat. So it's like are we really all that different from each other? I don't think so. I think we can all, come together and something symbolism.
Because I think those are classified by precipitation. Deserts and rainforests are literal opposites. But yeah, sometimes it is raining quite hard on an area full of vegetation for this track. So not sure why they went with Desert Land for the title.
Wow. I think we've all learned a lot today. This has been a good episode. Thank you all.
If you really want an education, ask Niki and I to talk about Fire Emblem Genealogy of the Holy War again.
Maybe we will later. Audra, what's your song? Tell us about it.
Well, I only really got exposed to Langrisser with the remake arrangements, and I really just love the battle themes for it. To me, when I'm playing an SRPG, because the fights tend to go on longer, you kind of want those songs that'll pump you up and give you an adrenaline burst. And I feel like Allies of Fate in particular, I mean, the instrumentation is just great for that. I loved it, so I had to pick it for this podcast.
Yeah, I'm glad you did.
I mean, I love the different sections of it, and it's just great.
It's probably also not really surprising you haven't played a game in the series before this, because unless I'm blanking, I don't know that many of them ever came out here.
I'm not sure any of them did. I know that Langrisser was made by the same company as Growlancer.
Yes, I have played Growlancer.
Yeah, and also I always mix them up in my head a little bit because they sort of sound similar.
Yes.
But I think Langrisser was sort of their 90s series and Growlancer was sort of their 2000s series, being, generalizing a little bit. And we got some Growlancers, but no Langrissers until these remakes, was my understanding.
I think there was one game that probably most people don't want to be mentioned for the DS.
Oh, maybe, yeah. Like I thought maybe there was a sneaky Sega Saturn title that I wasn't aware of, but I'm mostly aware of Langrisser as pre-Growlancer, and this song is lovely. It's how do I just describe this? It's definitely a battle theme because of all of the forward momentum that you feel in the song. Mm-hmm. But I love that sort of the riff at the beginning that is. That sort of kicks it off, but I mean, this has a 90s anime energetic battle song kind of thing. It reminds me of some of Falcom's songs in the 90s. Like there's first, especially since in the link that you sent us, Audra, there's some redheads in the main character. I'm like, is this a Secret East game? I wasn't sure about it, but it's very energetic and fun. And I've never played a Langrisser, and this made me at least 2% more interested in checking out those remakes.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
2%.
I have to give everything a percentage, at least in my head, because I mean, I really don't need to add more things to my backlog, but Audra might have inadvertently done so anyway.
Aw, neat.
Nice. Yeah, okay, so you're right. I totally forgot about Langrisser Reincarnation on the 3DS. Axis brought that out here.
Yeah, I think most people want to kind of forget about it from what I've gathered.
Yeah.
I've forgotten about that so hard, I'm not sure I ever was aware of it.
I had to look it up because I'm like, in my head, I thought it was called Reincarnation, but I'm like, wait, no, that's the new Nier mobile game. But no, it's also called Reincarnation.
And the name of the Persona 3 and 4 remix albums.
Yes. Probably all capitalized and accented differently.
I think they are, yes.
Yes. Well, I'm just glad we got some, Iwadare music here because we have not featured any of his music on this show in 2 weeks. But that aside, like we talked about a little bit, this is one of those series that it's been around for a very long time. I mean, Langrisser 2 came out in 1994, but outside of this DS game that we all just remembered existed, it just was not a thing here in the West. So I think it's interesting that there's a mobile game, and this remake of 1 and 2 has been like probably more of a proper introduction, for Western gamers to the series. So I don't really know how well they have done. I'm not sure how well known it is now, but certainly more than it was before. So the music too, because that's what we're talking about. But I feel like with this song, and I'm guessing the soundtrack in general, like I'm thinking the intent was probably to kind of like retain this like classic sound. So, even though this remake came out in 2019, I feel like the instrumentation and sort of electronic sound here, it almost still wouldn't be out of place back in 1994, or at least in that era, the 90s and early 2000s.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so.
Yeah,
It's
not
pretty good.
that he's not talented and has grown as a composer over time, but it also seems like it was like an intentional kind of throwback to like some of his music back then.
Mm-hmm.
And I enjoy it.
Yep.
If you really want to get into it, I could see that something like this style and the way it sounds and the arrangement could have been like an arrangement back then. Like you wouldn't actually hear this literally on the Genesis, but if there was like an arrangement album. So I like that. I like that it sounds kind of modern, kind of retro. So it's a good battle song.
Yeah.
Retro, you say? Interesting.
Yes, I do know you have some interest in that.
Yeah, I think it was the Wordle word of the day a couple of weeks ago. Yep, I have some interest.
So this is a battle theme.
Yes.
Okay. I can hear it. I was thinking it was like a cool, like, wow, the enemy's about to beat us up, but through the power of friendship, we fight through. Like one of those themes that takes over the player phase music and the battle theme. That's the kind of energy feel I was getting from it.
I think it could work both ways, yeah. It's friends who beat people up.
Yes, let's go. Squad goals, as we say.
I mean, if the Yakuza games have taught me anything, you aren't really friends with someone until you've beaten each other up.
Ah, perfect. That's, what is that called? Friendly Fire On. Yeah.
Yes.
Imagine Friendly Fire in an SRPG. Let's go.
Oh, that sounds disastrous. I've accidentally killed my party so many times in games with Friendly Fire, like Dragon Age Oranges, where in a strategy RPG that sounds disastrous. I mean, there is a little bit of that in Final Fantasy Tactics, but that's kind of why I gravitate towards summons and samurai moves that don't have Friendly Fire. So, yeah. I mean, Mike, who among us hasn't accidentally Fire 3'd yourself with a calculator?
I mean, I definitely have.
I have. Yeah.
I was gonna say, technically, Fire Emblem Genealogy does a really great thing with, like, a kind of interpretation of Friendly Fire in a particular chapter, but we don't necessarily need to get into that. Just play Genealogy, everybody. That's the statement I'll make.
It all comes back to genealogy.
Genealogy is at the center of all strategy video games. I think it is the root or the trunk from which they all stem forth. I know it because it came to me in a dream.
Well, I mean, Langrisser 2 did come before Genealogy of the Holy War, so...
So they had a time machine? Oh my god. Hold on.
Wow.
Now this is interesting. Let's go.
Now we're playing Chrono Trigger. This is fascinating.
Oh my god, they're the same game.
Strategy RPG with time travel. You can send spells into the past. You play the game starting at Chapter 8 and go all the way back to Chapter 1. Who says no?
I would play that.
Yeah. There actually is a time loop in the Wild Arms Crossfire, which is interesting.
Okay.
Oh my god, and that's one of the next songs. That means that it was all planned from the beginning.
Yes.
Or from the end, depending on which way we're going here.
Mike, Audra gave you the best transition I've ever heard on a podcast. And why aren't you just running with it right now? What's going on?
Well, because it's not specifically our next song unless we just change things on the fly right now, which we could.
It's gone. The moment's gone. Whatever.
Video game.
All right. We are going to change things. Speaking of Wild Arms Crossfire, is it still called Crossfire here? Is that how you're supposed to pronounce XF?
I always said XF, but I've heard people say Crossfire.
Yeah. I mean, I know in Japan it's Crossfire.
I also knew of it only as XF, but now that I know it's supposed to be Crossfire, I admit that's much cooler.
It is.
Yes, it does kind of sound cooler.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Audra, you're going back to back here. Introduce your next song here.
My next song is Honki no Uso, version True Heart, from the Wild Arms Crossfire OST, or Wild Arms XF.
No. I like Crossfire. We're going to call it Crossfire now. No, I don't care.
Don't get caught up in the crossfire.
Okay, that's
Thank
probably why
goodness
we should
know what it stands for now. I was thinking it meant extra fast.
That would be good too.
Ooh, maybe extra flavor? Extreme flavor. Oh, okay. It's the extreme flavorized goldfish of the Wild Arms series.
Oh no.
Ah, yes.
Now we're going to all be thinking about lunch again.
I'm definitely gonna go down the goldfish aisle of groceries at the grocery store the next time I go. My grocery store is a dedicated goldfish aisle. It's a little weird.
That's fantastic.
It's pretty cool.
Are you going to get any of the Old Bay ones?
I've seen them before, but I don't know if they're sold regularly. I usually go for some version of pretzel goldfish or the cheddar ones. Those are my two. The purple pretzel bag and the orange cheddar bag.
That's a good choice. So while you're munching on your goldfish, I'm also going to have a song after Audra's here. And we have True Courage from Rhapsody, a musical adventure, which I decided is enough of a strategy RPG.
Tenpei Sato, let's go.
Yes. Well, I mean, I know that was someone you wanted on this episode.
Yes, I have been trying to get a Tenpei Sato RPG of a different stripe on Retro Encounter for something like 4 years. So I'm glad we'll at least be able to talk about his music a bit in this episode.
Absolutely. All right, let's go listen to Honki no Uso and True Courage, and we'll be right back.
「 が強さだと決めた自分を信じて本気の嘘から溢れ始める決めた熱情たぎる剣を振り荒らせ荒ぶる時の狭間で授けられた力を背負い通すのが命の証うつろな爪が狂わす定めの光と影はだから闇の中で目覚める壊れた夢のかけら絶えず降り注ぐなら見知らぬ手の根をつないだ悲しみの雨駆け抜けて過去と未来が逆まく暗い世界の果てに奇跡の花が放つ輝きいつかこの手に掴んでここにいないあなたと抱かれる胸の鼓動を重ねてWhy am I always feeling down? Why am I always so afraid? Why? Why have I given up hope?
What is it you're afraid of? I know. It's okay, you can say I'm afraid too, in the same way.
I give up hope, I just can't cope, can't give my all much longer.
You're not alone, so just hang on. You must try to be stronger. You can overcome life's ups and downs. You can turn your life around. That's the meaning of true courage. So please remember, don't you ever give up trying. Be courageous, keep on striving. Fly to the stars. You can have hope for tomorrow. So let's hold hands with one another. We can both take one step further. Dreams can come true.
Well, basically, I picked this song because I love Wild Arms music, and I especially love Wild Arms vocal tracks. And I feel like this one was probably, after Wild Arms 5, the closest we got to a really good vocal track that was very iconic for the series. And it happened to be from a strategy RPG, so I picked it. But I love the instrumentation. It's very spot on for Wild Arms. Michiko Naruke wrote the lyrics for the song, and it's really fitting. I think Noriyasu Agematsu did a great job making it sound like a distinct Wild West, Wild Arms soundtrack. And it's just really good vocals and instrumentation.
So you've played the game?
Yes.
Is this like an ending theme, or how's it fit in?
It was originally an opening theme, and then they play it closer to the end, the version True Heart.
Okay, yeah, my guess would have been end credits theme as well.
Yeah.
I've played Wild Arms 1 and 3, but didn't finish either of them. So I have a concept of Wild Arms music being like a lot of it's really good. I mean, the setting is sort of American Old West with anime influences, but the music is like sort of what you would think of as classic RPG music, but with things like
whistles,
like whistling and Spanish guitar that you would associate with like a spaghetti western of the 60s or 70s. So it's a really interesting eclectic mix, and this is just a lovely vocal track that I would put in the same category as like a great vocal ender for like a Trails game or a Persona game, which coming from me is high praise, I promise.
I believe this version, if I remember correctly, was played at least closer to the end, if not the ending credits.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't compare it to like the other version of it, so I would just, based on this one, it sounded like that kind of like victorious ending theme, like between the vocals and the guitar, and also the fact that it's on disc 4 of a 4-disc soundtrack. That was also my clue. So I felt really insightful, So I don't know if you did, if you looked them up or no, like I didn't really have any luck finding like a good translation of these lyrics, but because I was curious what was going on. So I did run like a basic machine translation, which only helped me so much.
I believe it's more about the
something...
main character's decision to fake being a princess to help inspire people. Like it's about her kind of coming to terms with that and like her connections to the princess.
Okay, cool. I didn't get that at all. Yeah. I just understood there was something about bonds exposed to the wind of swords, glowing miracle flowers, and someone who is in fact not here to grab it hard.
That sounds like a machine translation of Japanese text if I've ever heard it.
Right. Oh, and
to be fair, a lot of the the glowing flowers and stuff kind of fits for Wild Arms. There's usually some kind of glowing flower.
Okay, so like there is a flower, but like I didn't get any context out of it. Basically, all I learned from that translation was like,
there's a lot of emphasis on bonds.
Did this game ever escape the PSP? Because I know of it as the PSP spin-off of Wild Arms.
No, it didn't, which is a shame because I feel like it's probably my favorite of the last 3 Wild Arms, actually, which is funny because it is the strategy RPG spin-off. But I feel like it was the strongest in terms of plot, and they had some of the best job classes in it.
Yeah, I haven't played this, but I mean, for quite a while I was really interested in, collecting all the PSP RPGs I could. So I have done a small amount of research into it. But it's kind of a shame because a lot of the older Wild Arms games are great, and I know that at least some of them, at least 1, 2, and 3, are easy to get on PSN nowadays. So the later catalog, I don't know, maybe it'll come out again later, but this is intriguing, and it has at least one good musical track in it. So I hope this sort of gets a Nipponichi Classics Volume 4 treatment eventually, but I wouldn't...
The soundtrack is pretty good too, especially if you're at all familiar with Wild Arms music. I think it really captured that feel.
Oh, but so is it more about the tone, or like do real motifs and themes come back?
It's more about the tone.
Okay, because I mean, I love the tone of Wild Arms music. I mean, everyone in the world knows that Into the Wilderness opening track from Wild Arms 1 is an all-time classic. So preserving that tone across the series is an excellent idea. Two things I love are Ennio Morricone movie soundtracks and Japanese RPG music. So like the union of those two is fascinating to me.
Yeah, it's definitely a good union of those, I think.
All right. So, do we consider Rhapsody a strategy RPG?
I know of it.
It does involve manipulating squares on a battlefield. So with this, we probably also have to call Radiant Historia a strategy RPG, and South Park, The Fractured But Whole, a strategy RPG. But I think we can on a technicality.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. Both of my choices today are technicalities.
Yeah, I have played Rhapsody. It was only a rental though, so I never got far in it. And it's the first game in a trilogy called Marl Kingdom. Marl Kingdom got spun off into a more heavy strategy RPG called La Pucelle Tactics. And then off of the framework of La Pucelle Tactics, Nipponichi decided to start a little weirdo Netherworld RPG called Disgaea. So that's exactly why I have done a deep dive on Rhapsody before. But more than being a strategy RPG, Rhapsody is sort of well known as being a musical RPG because it has musical numbers and a story that resembles a fairy tale or a Disney movie at times. So its reputation is of being that RPG musical, and it came out I think a couple years after its Japanese release in North America worldwide. So it has been around for over 20 years, and yeah, this is one of the musical numbers from Rhapsody. So apologies for that brief monsoon, but you know me by now if you've listened to some RPG fan podcasts.
Could say it's a musical tactical game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the history lesson. I don't think I realized exactly how it connected to their other games in terms of like what inspired what. So.
The second game in the trilogy, Little Princess, is also a musical, but I think they abandoned the strategy elements. The videos I've seen of it look more like a traditional JRPG. But Rhapsody is going to. I mean, it was a PS1 game from 22 to 23 years ago, but it is going to be released as part of the Nipponichi Classics Collection Volume 3 in a couple of months. So if any of that is interesting to you, panelists or listeners, Rhapsody will be very easy to have on your PC or Switch in a couple of months.
Yeah, and I'm glad about that because it's a game I knew about back when it came out in 2000. At least here it came out in 2000. So I knew about it, but never got around to playing it. But I always knew it looked adorable.
It's a very saccharine RPG. The reason I fell off it a little bit was because like I was intrigued by by it being a musical because I love musicals and I love cartoon musicals of my youth a lot. Basically saying I've seen a bunch of Disney movies, but the game itself was a little saccharine and the story wasn't that interesting to me, so I fell off of it. But I don't know. This is the kind of thing that I might try to replay when that remake comes out because it is pretty unique and interesting for what it is. And again, like it's the musical RPG, and this is I'm just sort of amazed that it exists.
Yeah, right.
Or maybe I'm amazed that there aren't more games like it because as a concept, I think it works.
I mean, I think it could be a good palate cleanser between like hunting monsters and stuff too. So there's also that.
Yeah, this is the opposite of a monster hunting or a devil summoning game, and I play a lot of those. So this again, this is like me playing a Kirby game in between Dark Souls games. Just my I don't know what metaphor do I want. It'll be pretty good for just giving my soul a nice bath before descending into darkness again.
Okay, I like it. I'm actually surprised. Like, not that game music of the time was questionable or anything, but voice acting in like the 90s and early 2000s. I think in the early 2000s it started like improving. I mean, I know it's not all because of Metal Gear Solid, but I know that was, at least for me, that was a big shift because I think that really changed like what we expected out of games and like, oh wait, no. Like there is, they just raised the bar in terms of quality. So I wasn't expecting going back listening to this because I didn't really listen to the soundtrack back then. Like I was really doing research for this episode, and I think it's all pretty solid here. I mean, I know we're talking about singing and not voice acting, but it holds up better than I would expect. And I really like that it's a musical game. And I know you said you watched a lot of Disney movies, but like I was thinking about more like Disney, and also it was Disney for me and Don Bluth.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they weren't all like, didn't all have musical scenes.
Yeah, Secret of Nim doesn't have any music scenes, but Anastasia is sometimes mistaken for a Disney movie because of its musical scenes.
Yeah.
But they're brilliant.
Yeah, and why am I blanking?
An American Tail.
American Tail, yes, thank you.
Yeah. The American Tail is, and Land Before Time has less music, and American Tail has more music. So yeah, Don Bluth didn't. I think he was a Disney animator, and then he moved on to make his own studio and did his own thing, which was a lot of the time more interesting than what Disney was doing, until it sort of became a American Tail Land Before Time sequel factory.
We don't talk about the sequels to Land Before Time. They don't exist.
Well, the funny thing is, the Land Before Time sequels did turn into musicals, even though the first one wasn't.
Oh, they did? Okay.
Yeah, my brother was big into that, and they were like, once they got to like 14 or 15 of like the direct-to-video ones, it's like
15.
There's a lot of them.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
my guess would have been 8 or 9.
Many. No, there was so many.
And they don't exist.
Oh yeah,
I remember that.
There would have been so many.
I remember Land Before Time 2, where they have a baby T-Rex. I remember that one and liking that one. But after that, I have no concept of what dinosaurs were added to the sequels, especially since those dinosaurs in real life were millions and millions of years apart. I think there was. I think that it was not really a joke, but there was like 100 million years in between Triceratops and Stegosaurus, and only 65 million years in between Triceratops and humans. So, Ice Age and Land Before Time don't really respect the geologic time very much. But okay, let's talk about RPG music. Right, dinosaurs, Tenpei Sato, Don Bluth, back to Rhapsody. I think that the two singers on this track, which you helpfully have in the notes, Mike, are Sarah Thomas and Jody Fleischer. They're good. They have nice singing voices, but you can sort of tell that they maybe haven't done a ton of voice lessons. You know what I mean? Like voice acting was not as professional as in 2000 as it is in 2022. If this game was remade nowadays, or just made in the 2020s, I think the spirit of the songs would still be there, but they would probably bring in like like Broadway people or something for the musical numbers. So I my ears are cracking a little bit listening to the songs. Like the songs are nice, but you can tell that these are voiceover artists and not professional singers. I hope fair. I wasn't too rude. I hope I'm not too rude in saying that.
I think there's a certain charm to it.
Yeah, like I do like the charm. They seem really earnest about it, and like I like the spirit of the song and how like they're there, like playing off and inspiring each other. So that's also credit to the lyrics. But yeah, I'm guessing they're leaving the music for the new version, but
the remakes in the Nipponichi Classics collections have been basically untouched. I don't think they. I don't think they would remake any of it, because they have been no frills remakes so far, and this was localized by a very early version of Atlas in 2000, and not working designs, so they won't jealously hold on to their to their scripts and audio tracks the way that Victor Ireland does. My guess is there would not be any voice acting changes, but I don't know how all these contracts work all the time, so maybe they would do that, but that seems like more effort than Nipponichi Software America has put into these remakes. So probably not, is my guess, is if they're going to replace any audio.
Right. Well, I mean, it's their property anyway, right? Didn't they develop it?
Yes. No, Nipponichi Japan did. And Atlas and Mastiff published all of the old Nipponichi games in the early 2000s, including Disgaea 1. But starting in the mid 2000s, Nipponichi created their own North American localization branch, which is called Nipponichi Software America, or NISA. And NISA has done all of the localization for Nipponichi stuff and a bunch more localization as well in the ensuing 15 years or so.
Yeah, so I'm guessing they wouldn't have any rights issues, because like since you're talking about working designs, like we talked about that a little bit in our last episode with Lunar, because the PSP remake of Lunar, like everything was different, like the voice actors, everything had to change. But we're talking about a different publisher, and the first publisher didn't exist anymore, so just a messy, weird situation.
Yeah, it is messy, and just like situations like working designs and Harmony Gold for certain anime series. Like I know that that localization and publishing outside of the native country can get weird. So again, this is a Nipponichi game. They own the rights to the game, so they can definitely re-release it. But I'm not sure if Atlus owns that old localization or if Nipponichi does. So maybe they could pay Atlus to use the original version of it, or maybe they have to record their own new translation and voice work. I don't know. So we will see when that remake comes out in, I think, what is it, like September? It's pretty soon.
It's pretty soon, yeah. I don't know offhand, but
it's I think it's August or September.
I feel like it's fall something.
Yeah, Nipponichi Classics Collection Volume 3 comes out pretty soon, but I don't know the exact date. I'd have to look it up.
If anyone wants to examine the screenshots from the Classics collection and compare and see if the dialogue is exactly the same, we could find out. But we probably don't need to do that on the show today.
I bet we have people on staff that have played that. I think Wes has. Yeah, maybe I could pose that question to some staff later, because I would be curious about how much of the old localization is preserved. Because the localization business is so much bigger now. Like it used to be people outside the Screen Actors Guild using fake names, just throwing something together in the 90s, to now it being its own industry with a lot of talent in it. So I'm interested to see how that turns out. And I sort of have disdained or avoided Rhapsody since trying to play it 20 years ago, but now I'm ready to give it a second chance with the collection, probably. So maybe I'll become very, very familiar with this catalog, or with this soundtrack when I wasn't before.
It looks adorable.
Okay, I didn't mean for us to have back-to-back songs from the same composer, but
don't be sorry.
Do you want to talk about your next song, Sollosi?
My next song is Running Fire, also composed by Tenpei Sato, the in-house composer for Nipponichi for many, many years, from the first Disgaea game, Disgaea Hour of Darkness.
Awesome. And Niki, we finally get to one of your songs after that.
Oh boy. We've got Battle 1 from Rondo of Swords, and there's very little documentation on the OST of Rondo of Swords, so it's composed either by Atsushi Fukase or Tatsuya Fujiwara. We don't know. It's a mystery, but it's a cool song.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I'll get into it more, but I did try to look this up, and I found almost nothing about it. So, what a interesting choice here.
Technically, the track doesn't even have a title. It's just what some Japanese fans have referred to it as. So, haha, it's music.
I think on YouTube it was like song 27 or something weird too. So it's like, it's like the 27th, thing.
And I don't even know if that aligns with it in the game data. That might not be entirely accurate.
Cool.
Yeah, because the video I got Battle 1 from was a Japanese upload of the entire soundtrack, and it was much earlier than 27 in that video. So that's cool. Isn't it exciting? It's a big mystery. We have to strategize around it, almost like a strategy RPG.
Yes. All right. Let's go listen to Running Fire and the song that we are calling Battle 1.
The Disgaea songs, there aren't a lot of great ones, but it's more about just the wacky vibe of the games, and this is one of the better Disgaea songs, and it captures the quirkiness of Disgaea in a good way, I think.
Yeah, I really like the instrumentation.
Yeah, I almost did one of the anime OPs for Disgaea instead, because I think they're sort of better than this, but this is more the strategy RPG flavor, because it is one of the recurring random battle songs. Or not really, aren't really random battles in Disgaea, but one of the recurring battle songs, you know what I meant.
Yeah, I know.
Right, so the second half of our Tenpei Sato double feature is pretty different from the song from Rhapsody. Tenpei Sato's been the composer of, I think, every Disgaea game. I would have to look up all of them to confirm that, but I'm not going to. And again, I don't think Disgaea is a series with amazing music, but because it doesn't have, unforgettable, brilliant songs the way that, even Final Fantasy does. But it's more about just having an irreverent, silly vibe. And so the Disgaea music uses a lot of weird instrumentations, like they'll even have like boing noises in between the unusual synth instruments. But so Running Fire has strings and castanets at the beginning, and then sort of a buzzy synth guitar, and then quieter moments that feel like a wind orchestra. It's a slightly schizophrenic piece, but Disgaea is a slightly schizophrenic series. So there's a silliness and an energy and a chaos to Running Fire that I think that I think fits Disgaea. And I've been trying to get Disgaea either on this podcast or Retro Encounter for a while now, and yeah, do it, bring it.
Yeah, it's about time. I mean, yeah, it's our first Disgaea song.
I think there's like a quirky energy to it that's really kind of fun, and yeah, it kind of fits for that chaotic feeling.
Shit, Disgaea is nothing if not quirky, so it definitely fits.
It has this like fun, like bouncy energy to it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's incredibly. I wrote in my notes. I decided it was so synthy that I had to write incredibly twice. Incredibly synthy. I feel like it could be polarizing, maybe in part for that, but I like the just kind of funky sound it has to it.
At least for me, the Disgaea soundtracks run together a little bit, or and maybe including other games Sato works on, like Makai Kingdom or ZHP on Losing Ranger, which makes me pretty certain that he uses the same or similar sound library for most, if not all, of his soundtracks. And when I was looking up Disgaea songs, I had to double check which Disgaea game the various ones came from, and also because a lot of them get remixed or reused between games. But again, this is, I think, one of the best battle themes from Disgaea 1. And Disgaea is so peculiar. Like, it has an incredibly sad song that plays during a tragic chapter in the middle of the game. I think it's called Red Moon. But it's basically a bunch of undead singing about passing on in between silly stories about a boy and his pet zombie, or looking for ingredients for a stew from the lava pits of hell. Like, Disgaea has this energetic quirkiness, and until they completely change direction with unusually poignant moments. And but I think that's captured in Running Fire also, because it changes tone and instrumentation partway through, I think twice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's some very interesting instrument changes in it.
I know it does that, and it's a I forget how long it is offhand, but it's kind of a short little loop to have that change.
Yeah, I think it's only 2 or 2.5 minutes. Maybe the link that we have is 2 full loops, but it's Sato doesn't have long, epic, thought-provoking songs like
Sakimoto?
No, he wasn't the one I was trying to think of, but it's not important. I think that Sato does work with short loops a lot of the time, probably because he's cranking out more than one soundtrack a year sometimes, and his output is almost at a Sakuraba level. But again, I think it fit, this quirkiness and weirdness fits what Disgaea is, and that's what's more important to me than cranking out a 6-minute magnum opus every 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I mean, I can't imagine Disgaea with like that kind of music. It just wouldn't fit at all. So this is the right vibe for that game or that series.
Yeah, it has the right energy.
Exactly.
But I'm very familiar with Disgaea. I've played something like 6 of them, counting spin-offs. But one game I don't know at all and haven't played at all is Rondo of Swords for the DS. So, Niki, please tell me about this game and soundtrack that I know nothing about.
Wow, I'm glad you asked. Rondo of Swords is a video game. So, there's these things, they're called like SRPGs, and you have a character and you select the character and you move them and then you put them next to a character, like an enemy character, and you make them like, you say like, okay, attack this guy. And then they'll start a battle and fight, right? Like, we know these kinds of games, right?
Street Fighter 2, I'm familiar.
Hell yeah. So what's interesting about Rondo of Swords is that they say, well, you know what though? What if you just went through them? So it's a strategy RPG, but in order to attack the enemy units, you have to run your cursor through them and out the other side and basically try to hit as many enemies in one movement as you can. So if you're like me, and whenever you would play a game like Fire Emblem and you would take the cursor and you would try to like make it do all these funny squiggly shapes, there's actually a purpose to that in Rondo of Swords. You literally run through to hit. And what I've always I know this game got pretty mixed / middling reviews, which I think is fair. But I've always found the concept so inherently interesting because it's just fascinating to have your characters go through and emerge on the other side of the unit, just run right past them. And this theme that we are calling Battle 1 is the first battle theme when you are when your units are attacking. And even though I haven't played this game recently at all, it's on the DS, so it's getting on in age, but this theme always stuck with me because that really steady beat in the beginning is like so perfect while you're watching your little units like slide through the, like they're just going, and then they pass through an enemy, they smack them, they keep going. And what I like about it too is that as it gets to the end of the song and gets ready to loop, it has this really cool build-up that you're probably never going to hear because the battle isn't going to last that long. But if you can make the battle last that long because of, how you run through the enemies, it's almost like a reward to get to hear that really cool, like, end of the song and loop back into the front. And it's always stuck with me. It could also just be because I'm traumatized and there's like a way to make the first chapter of the game last like 2 hours if you want to try to beat like the mid-game boss with your level 1 characters, so it also probably just burned itself into my brain. But I've always liked this track. And it's got a lot of tracks that have this almost kind of like Pokemon feel to them with the little sound effects and like chordal progressions that it uses. And I was tempted to pick one of those for like events and stuff because I was like, wow, doesn't this sound like this could fit in a Pokemon game? It's pretty cool. But like this battle theme is just fascinating to me. The whole thing is so fascinating to me.
Now, since I know it's a DS game and the way you describe the battles, and does it use the stylus? Like, are you just scribbling lines on the screen? Like, just
you can scribble lines or you can use your D-pad.
Okay.
Whichever one. But you can use your stylus for it. It's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean,
I love it.
It just seems like one of those games where, when the DS first came out, people were just doing these weird experimental things. Like, oh, well, we have a stylus now. Let's see what we can do. And I think sometimes it worked out. Like when people really thought about it, like, let's use it in a way that like really benefits. like the Zelda games that have maps you can like draw little notes on. So yeah, that sounds fun.
I want to say one thing quickly. There is a point to making squiggle patterns in Fire Emblem games with your D-pad, because it does use one tick of the random number generator every time you every time the squiggle resets. So you can try to manipulate the RNG by just making squiggles in, with character movement squares to try and manipulate better levels up or better battle outcomes. But not like Rondo of Swords. This is fascinating that you sort of take out, instead of having 1v1 or multi-area attacks, it sort of combines those into chain attacks, which is like a much more DS-focused version of Jeanne d'Arc for the PSP, maybe. Which is a game I looked at the soundtrack for this episode, maybe, but didn't find anything I really loved. This is super interesting to me. I can hear the similarity to some Pokemon soundtracks, Niki. I really like how they use their percussion more for brighter tones. So they have this big thumping bass that's more like a bass guitar than like a drum. That is I find very I find irresistible. But this song has a good energy to it, good forward momentum. You could tell it's a battle song, but it's a little bit more reserved than like the irrepressible energy of that Disgaea song or that Langrisser song that we had before. This is cool. I like this a lot. Do we know anything else that Fujiwara or Fukase have made? Because I'm not familiar with either of them.
Oh boy.
It's been a while. I think I tried looking them up and I couldn't find anything. Like, if I found them, they didn't have Rondo of Swords listed under them because Rondo of Swords is not like in any database for some reason. And I looked up the Japanese name, which is called Rondo of Deception, and that doesn't have anything either.
It's so weird. It's such a strange, because it's by Atlas too. It's not even like an obscure developer.
Yeah.
I looked up both of the composers on VGMDB, and VGMDB is very extensive, and one of them doesn't exist on there.
Oh.
That's probably what you were looking at too, Niki, because the other one has, I think, 4 soundtrack credits to their name.
Yeah, that sounds about right, yeah.
This is not one of them. So I'm like, wow, all right. So weird.
Maybe I made this up. Maybe that was the Rondo of Deception all along, is that this game doesn't exist and I made it up.
So it's a Rondo of Deception, and this game's existence is a shared illusion. It exists only in a few wiki articles and YouTube clips.
Right. I think that's about the extent of it, yes.
All right.
It's kind of funny because, like, I forgot the game existed because I think my only exposure was probably making a small screenshot gallery for RPG Fan, probably back in 2006. Because, like, I'm looking it up now, and I'm like, the cover looks nice. And the game looks better than I would expect for a game, something that I really forgot ever existed. Like, it sort of looks like a Fire Emblem of its time. Like, it looks all right. But yeah, hard to find any information on the soundtrack, the composers. What a strange little choice. I appreciate you bringing it, though, because it is a fun song.
It's a great song.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got cute sprites. The story, from what I remember, was competent. It has a route split. There is deception that happens. It's really interesting. But it's like, it's just not anywhere for some reason.
Unfortunately, the deception was not interesting enough to keep it in this name when it came west.
Yeah. Maybe that was the real strategy RPG, was that, 20 years later, we would all be deceived as to the truth of this game's existence. That's, wow. I mean, that I respect it. That's called the waiting game. That's a stall tactic, as we say in the SRPG business. I respect it. I really do.
Yeah. The fact that this game never actually existed, but we all thought it did.
Right, yeah.
And there's just little snippets of it online that's been planted over the last, decade and a half.
Yeah, it's like those creepypastas that people will make up, and then some people will be really invested in them and then make their own, videos of them to make it seem like it was real so they can get in on the creepypasta. I think that's what it is. I think all of those gameplay videos are fan-made, which is really impressive. That's not easy to do.
Right.
This almost feels like a Mandela effect thing, or like a shared delusion, kind of like the "Love Take Me Down to the Streets" song from the movie Role Models, which would take too long for me to explain. But Nikki, you have given us something that is interesting, but also obscure enough that we're not 100% sure it exists anymore. So thank you for putting us in this interesting paradox.
Absolutely. Any sort of existential dread is, that's what SRPGs are all about.
That's the true nature of them.
I think maybe a Yoko Taro strategy RPG would make me lose my mind.
Oh my god, I can't even imagine.
It would create a singularity of sorrow and despair that would lead us to be living in a Danganronpa game.
Yes, the Danganronpa strategy RPG. I remember that.
I would play a Danganronpa strategy RPG. I sight unseen, give it to me.
Isn't the summer camp game like a board game or some weird? Does that count? Are there squares you can move on?
Yeah, it's a board game.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's if it's anything like the one in V3, then I don't think it would count as a strategy RPG, because you just roll the dice and then they move like in a straight line.
Okay, good. I was worried that we were going down a logical path that would have Mike talk me into thinking Mario Party is a strategy RPG, but I'm glad we're not there. I'm glad that's not where we ended up.
No, I'm the one that's trying to convince people that things are not RPGs, so we're not covering every game that gets made.
If we end up covering Mario Party, I might retire from RPG Fan.
Oh.
Okay. I don't think that we're at risk of that either of those happening.
Okay, well now they're gonna make an actual Mario Party strategy RPG with like full hexagonal board and everything.
Yeah, okay.
Like they're gonna do it now. Now they're gonna actually make it into an SRPG. There will be like a dragon final boss. Everyone will have like their own class.
Right. When you bring in
It's gonna
class
happen.
systems and dragons, that actually sounds like a game I'm interested in. But
Yeah.
it being a Mario Party game, I mean, if there's ways that you can lose by not getting stars, dice. Nope. Let's end this Mario Party discussion, please.
I'm not going to get into any spoilers, but there is a trial in Endwalker and Final Fantasy XIV, and there's one sequence of attacks this boss does that is basically just that Mario Party game of the book pages where you have to stand in the hole so you don't get smashed. And every time we do it, we're like, well, we're playing Mario Party now because it's the same concept.
Well, I mean, there's a raid in the Stormblood days from where you had to where you had to know your times tables and do live math. But so I will never put anything past the Final Fantasy XIV team. But I was just doing some background research. Did you know how many Mario Party games there are?
There's
20?
9 main ones, and I know there's the new one on Switch and at least a few handheld. 15.
2 new ones on Switch, but it's right in between. It's 18, which I thought seemed like an irresponsibly high number to me when I learned that.
Okay, because it is. I was right. Like the numbered ones go up to 9, or
they go up to like 9 or 10. There's 2 Switch ones, a bunch of handheld spin-offs, and at least 2 mobile spin-offs.
Yeah, okay, way more.
I think one mobile spin-off, and then one that was like a DSiWare or something. But anyway, yeah, I'm glad that we don't cover Mario Party on RPG Fan. It would hurt me in my brain.
Yeah. Well, I don't have a segue between that and Kudelka, so my next song is from Kudelka, the sort of prequel, whatever, lead-in game to the Shadow Hearts series, which I have played several hours of, but am not finished yet. But I actually am playing it, sort of. So Kudelka is also less of a strategy RPG than Rhapsody, but the battle system is strategic enough, so I decided it counts. So I have Kiss Twice from Kudelka as my next and final song. And after that, Nikki has one other song for us.
Yes, it's Leaf's Army Seeking Victory Base from Fire Emblem Thracia 776. But it's the arrangement from the Shippu Jinrai Sounds of Fire Emblem for Cypher Festival. Rest in peace, Fire Emblem Cypher.
That was quite a mouthful. All right.
The rest in peace part isn't part of the actual album name. I just put that in there because rest in peace, Fire Emblem Cypher.
No, that's fine. But I mean, still, that's a long track name and a long album name. So good job getting through all that. All right, so let's go listen to Kiss Twice and Leaf's Army Seeking Victory Base from Fire Emblem Threscia 776. Okay, so yes, again, I am stretching my definition of strategy RPG here. The story and exploration sequences in Kudelka are somewhere between a traditional 3D RPG of the PS1 era and action adventure and maybe survival horror, like based on the setting anyway. It has that similar feel. But, you know, those grid-based battles are close enough, right? Right. You're on squares. So they do add a layer of strategy with their movement and their attack range like you'd get in a traditional SRPG. So there. This game, I did not play Kudelka and whenever it came out, late 90s, early 2000s. I did not play it at all until sometime in 2020 because my partner has it and was like, we should play this so you can play Shadow Hearts.
Hillary is the number one Kudelka fan that I know. She was talking about Kudelka way before her first episode of Retro Encounter.
Oh yeah, she is. I mean, she'd like Shadow Hearts more, but they all go together. So
I love Shadow Hearts, especially the second one. But I know of Kudelka as being a very rare PS1 RPG with those tactics and survival horror elements that you mentioned that has some characters that appear in Shadow Hearts, and I'm aware of those characters for sure, but I have never played Kudelka, mostly for access reasons.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
we've talked about having video game collections already several times on this episode. A Kudelka plus Shadow Hearts collection is the stuff of dreams for me.
I know. I know there's like talk and rumor of like more like a reissue of Shadow Hearts, and there's quiet little updates to like the Shadow, because like you could still visit the Shadow Hearts Japanese website, and it has a new like company and the copyright, so like someone's doing something with it, but we don't know for sure what yet.
Saknoth made like 5 games in the late 90s, early 2000s, and then disappeared off of the face of the earth. So I do not know who owns that catalog or what would have to happen for such a collection to manifest itself. But interestingly, Saknoth was, I think, created or co-founded by the composer Hiroki Kikuta.
Exactly.
Who's worked on who's done the music and I think some of the game direction for a lot of games in this connected series.
Yeah. Although apparently not the battle system in Kudelka for some reason. There's a little, I didn't dig too far into it, but there's a little bit on Wikipedia where there was like some kind of conflict or something where he was like, he just didn't touch the battle system, so someone else did it. So I don't know. I don't know what happened there. If it was just like, yeah, that's not how I would do it, but yeah, go ahead. Just do what you want. No idea.
Before Saknoth, I really only knew of Kikuta as the composer to Secret of Mana and Trials of Mana. But so there's definitely a pedigree there. But Kudelka and Shadow Hearts are like sort of became his career for a while, and I wish we had more of them.
Yeah, well, I'm still crossing my fingers for at least a PC modern console port. But so the music though is very interesting. Like overall, like I think it's considered fairly divisive, despite who composed it and his work on stuff like the Mana games. But this one, I was down between a few songs. There was this, and then there was a song that's literally just titled "Dead," which is really pretty and melancholy. But this one was just weird and interesting, so I wanted us to be able to talk about it. So I don't know exactly what's going on here. Like, I don't know if there's any real instruments in here. So some of it is just some exotic sounding something. It's just not like anything else I've heard in games. This is one of the battle themes, and it has some interesting percussion throughout the song, and there's some flute or wind instrument, some synth stuff, and whatever that is, like right at the beginning, like that main motif that keeps coming back. It's this really interesting melody. Like I've been listening to it and I keep having it in my head when I'm not listening to it. So like if you don't know Kudelka, I'm not sure if this is applicable to Shadow Hearts at all, but like maybe it seems weird. Like maybe it doesn't have the energy you might expect for a battle song. But if you look up the game and see the battles, like the battles are this like, it's just weird. Like the whole game is kind of like dark and creepy, and you have this grid with just like really sparse. Well, I was gonna say a little background, but there's really no background. You're just like in this void. So it kind of works. Like this weird, creepy, melancholy, like gothic vibe. I think this is the kind of battle song you would want. So in this strange way, I think it works pretty well. It has this sense of determination through it, but it's still atmospheric, and overall it's just strange and unexpected. So I enjoy it a lot. I listened to the whole soundtrack multiple times trying to decide which one, but I think this is my favorite one.
I feel the Mana through line here with the percussion, because it's very persistent and sometimes overtakes the melody and harmonies a little bit. It reminds me sort of the the Volcanic Island song in Trials of Mana and some of the cave music in Trials of Mana. But it feels less like Kikuta trying to like compose a song with a dominant melody and more of him just trying to create a mood, because Kudelka is a moody game. It really wants to be a union of RPG and horror, and so they're trying to, even this battle theme, which I think is more energetic than most of the Kudelka soundtrack. I'm not as familiar with the Kudelka soundtrack as you were, Hillary, Mike, but I have listened through at least parts of it. This is more energetic than most of it, but it is still sort of moody and a little creepy and a little off, that I'm sure that was deliberate.
Yeah, I can see it fitting the atmosphere of that game really well from what I know of it.
Because a lot of it is going through sort of like a haunted church, but then when you hit random battles, it does sort of take place in a black void or a purplish void where you navigate squares like a strategy RPG. It's you know, it's similar to Rhapsody, where this is, you don't think of Kudelka as a strategy RPG maybe, but it definitely has
Elements of it.
yeah, elements of it where you navigate a grid and attacks have specific ranges and areas of effect. So I think this qualifies for sure, but it's you know, I think of it as this odd hybrid RPG and not necessarily as a strategy RPG in my head.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair.
Yeah, this definitely gave me those like battle theme when the time is right for something much more mellow or somber vibes.
Mm-hmm.
It's always interesting when they do that kind of switch on you. I don't know the context of the game, but there are plenty of times where something less energetic is warranted for a fight.
Not everything has to be extreme.
Exactly. So, Leaf's Army.
Wow, Leaf's Army, a bunch of really cool folks, if I do say so myself. So, the original Leaf's Army Seeking Victory, that's the title used for the player phase themes. So, Bass is the first player phase theme that players will hear in the game. Fire Emblem, Thracia 776, classic, great game. Everybody play Thracia. If you've heard people say, wow, it's too hard and it's not good, don't listen to them.
Maybe listen to them a little bit.
It's challenging, but no, listen. It's challenging, but listen. It's not nearly as bad as people make it out to be. Now, here's the thing. This theme normally has, it's normally not a lot faster, but it's a bit faster. It has brass. It sounds like a player phase theme, but like a lot of older game music, I'm always fascinated by arrangements that make the song feel completely different and feel like they fit somewhere else entirely. And when I hear this with just piano and guitar and slowed down, this feels almost like an ending theme to me, like after all of Leaf's struggles, which, he struggles a lot. It's a rough time over in the Thracian Peninsula. It just feels like it's done, you know? We've united Thracia. We can sit back. There's a little bit of peace. We can relax a bit. We can look over the river Thracia or some, Thracian plains and just be proud of what we've done. It feels like a nice sense of accomplishment. And I feel like it's so nice to hear what would otherwise be like a theme of being on the offensive, kind of toned down into something really calming and just nice and pleasant. I mean, all of Thracia's music is pleasant. Stellar soundtrack. But this sense of calm and conclusion is really, really fun for me after not only having played it in general, but just knowing that this is supposed to be a player phase theme.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I thought it was almost a home base song at first when I heard it. So it's really neat knowing the context.
Yeah.
I literally wrote home base in my notes because I thought that's what it was too. It has this safe space kind of sound. So knowing that it wasn't, coming into it not having the context is actually really interesting because I wouldn't have never guessed that was the original version of the song, how it was used.
I'm not gonna lie, I almost gaslit myself when I heard this. I'm like, this is the player phase theme, right? This isn't the This isn't when you're doing preparation, right? I literally almost gaslit myself because it doesn't sound like a player phase theme anymore, and that's so cool to me.
I'm just glad that we have such a beautiful piano dominant song on episode 88. 88 keys on the piano. Anyway.
Gotcha. Yes.
Oh, neat.
Beautiful.
Whoa, oh my god. I'm telling you, Kaga has this power over us. I mean, this was all meant to be. This... Oh no, I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna reference a Reinhardt dialogue line. I will never speak the Forbidden One's words.
So you're saying it's our Fire Emblem fate?
You know what? I hate Reinhardt enough that I would much rather reference Fire Emblem Fates than a line of Reinhardt's dialogue. So we'll go with that. Yes, this was Fire Emblem Fates. Maybe a revelation, if one will. We conquested all of these music tracks as if it was our birthright. I don't know. That's fine. You know, that's all good. I'm just not gonna speak any words from the Forbidden Thunder Man's mouth. How dare he appear in the most wonderful game of Thracia?
You said Thracia so many times, it sounds like I'm hearing echoes.
You know, oh my god, what a good game. Fire Emblem Echoes. See, I really wanted to pick a Shadows of Valentia song because that entire soundtrack is a bop. One might say it is straight fire. One might say uncle. I don't know what you might say, but the thing is, because it's so like defined, right? It's already so instrumentative, or however you would say that word. I feel like you don't see as many arrangements that kind of change the feel of the songs. Whereas like for older songs, even if they have that kind of hint of like, oh yeah, this is like meant to be brass, I find it's a little more frequent that people might change up how they feel, how the song feels with their arrangements.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't just a recreation. This is a genre shift from because a lot of player phase Fire Emblem music is like a march sort of just like upbeat. Yeah. We're trying to win. We're the good guys kind of tone, and this really does feel like a serene village or like a base building song, like we referred to earlier. So and on its own, it just stands out as a beautiful track. I love the interacting piano and guitar in this track. It's mm-hmm. I want to listen to this whole album now, especially if it has especially if I can get my synapses firing with Fire Emblem music that I'm more familiar with. Because again, I've tried to play Thracia 776. I thought it was very challenging. I was interested, but there was probably 100 other games I was thinking about playing, so I never really went very far. This was in the mid 2000s, probably like 15 years ago or something. But I think I love this track. This is great, and the fact that the arrangement does so much is an interesting discussion on its own.
What's the rest of the album like in terms of arrangements?
It is piano and guitar of tracks across the Fire Emblem series. They have a Disturbance in Augustria, which is from Genealogy, and it's another similar thing where that is like that's like the map track, but they turned it into this very mellow, like relaxing track. And it's fascinating. It's just really nice to hear these piano and guitar takes on all these different Fire Emblem songs.
Niki, if we don't have it already on the website, you should write a music review of this one, because I am endlessly fascinated by that description. I really am. Yeah.
Fire Emblem, piano emblem. Wow.
I wouldn't be shocked if, because I haven't looked this up, maybe Patrick wrote a review of this in 2011 for all I know. But yeah, this sounds like a bit of a hidden gem that I want to explore further on my own.
I'm literally checking as we talk because I'm also curious. Not that we really need to like pressure Niki into writing a soundtrack review.
Yeah. I'm not no pressure, Niki, but again, like, and I don't mean to disparage Patrick either, but he has written so many music reviews on the website that I'm no longer surprised that he's written something so obscure that I discover it 15 years later.
Right. We actually do not have it, unless it just wasn't linked properly. But
well, we'll see what happens because
Fire Emblem. Interesting.
because this track is dope.
it really is.
It's so good. Everyone should play Thracia.
Okay, hesitation on that. Everyone should listen to this song. Everyone should do some reading about Thracia, but oh boy, there's like 5 Fire Emblem games I would recommend before Thracia because it truly,
I would recommend Thracia. Let's go.
it truly is brutally difficult and interesting.
It's not.
But
okay, listen,
hard.
it's
but
fine.
the
Don't worry.
accessibility
Just
is
listen.
limited.
Hold up. Do not let Leaf escape first, and you'll be fine. You know what? I wish. Actually, you know what? If you're not going to play Thracia, play Shadows of Valentia. Yeah, if you're going to have to pick,
Okay.
those are your 2 choices because not enough people played Shadows of Valentia, and everyone should play that too. Play Shadows of Valentia.
All right. Well, I really don't know how long this episode is going to be by the time we put music in here, but I'm going to assume that we have a somewhat extra large episode today. So thank you, everyone. This has been a fun discussion. I think we all learned some stuff today.
Extra large episode like the maps in genealogy. Got him. We did it.
Yep. All right. So what is coming next on Rhythm Encounter? So we're doing, I really can't believe we haven't done this before, but in a couple weeks, we're doing our best of the Super Nintendo. I don't think everyone has picked their tracks yet, but that is a tricky one. To pick 2 songs to represent that console, I think is going to be difficult, but I don't think there's any chance that we aren't going to have a ton of great music on that episode. So you can look forward to that in a couple weeks. And after that, we are doing, because it'll still be summertime, we're going to be doing an episode on tropical themes or island themes. And that's all for now. So please look forward to those in the next 2 to 4 weeks. If you have any feedback on this or thoughts on the episode, let us know what you think. If you have ideas for future episodes, you can email us at music@rpgfan.com. You can reach me personally at mike@rpgfan.com. If people want to contact you, Sollosi, what's the best way?
Oh, right. The best way to do so is to find me on Twitter. I am at The Real Monsoon most of the time, at Evoca for Dogs at other times, and on RPG Fans Discord, I am Monsoon Mike. But if you want to reach out to me about the Retro Encounter podcast, the best thing to do is to email retro@rpgfan.com.
And how can people reach you, Audra?
I'm Audra B at rpgfan.com.
Perfect. And Niki?
On the Twitter, I'm at otome_Niki, OTOME, and then NIKI, not 2 Ks. That's a diary, and I'm Niki, a human, not a robot. I always succeed at the CAPTCHAs.
Good.
You're excellent at identifying motorcycles and traffic signals.
Both of those things, definitely.
And crosswalks.
Yes.
I wouldn't be opposed if you were a robot. In fact, I would not oppose having a robot on staff because I feel like it is one thing we're missing. We're a pretty diverse staff, but we do not have any robots. So if any robots are listening and want to join us, let me know. Beyond Rhythm Encounter, we also have 2 other podcasts at RPG Fan. So if you want to check out our general RPG podcast, that's Random Encounter. That's every other Monday, alternating with our show. And every week on Thursday, we have Retro Encounter, although I'm going to let Sollosi introduce it because that is your show.
Sure. Retro Encounter is a weekly podcast on rpgfan.com, and it's about a variety of RPG topics, but mostly every month we dedicate 2 episodes to a specific game that we're playing and discussing. And in the episodes that aren't those game journals, that can be any topic from, what have we done recently? We've done character fantasy drafts, we've done quiz shows, we've done episodes about dogs and cats. It's a lot of different topics and over 300 episodes.
Yeah. See, so much better than I would have done. Thank you. So if you enjoyed this episode, we would appreciate if you could review us or subscribe or whatever you want to do on Apple Podcasts, Google, any of the other million podcast platforms that you can listen to us on. So we would appreciate any of that. And that's our show. So we're going to close out today with a bonus track. So Sollosi, you alluded to the fact that you had a bonus track for us. So what are we closing out the show with?
Okay, I'm going to give you one last TED Talk because this bonus track has some discussion around it. It's I should mention the almost all of my strategy RPG fandom is rooted in 3 series: Final Fantasy Tactics, which I brought up earlier, Disgaea, which I brought up earlier, and Fire Emblem, which we're going to talk about even more now that Niki and I have finished our first or 7th back and forth on Fire Emblem. The song I'm picking is from Fire Emblem Gaiden, which is the second Fire Emblem game back on the NES. It was remade into Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valentia 6 or 7 years ago on the 3DS. The song is one of the main battle tracks. It's called With Mila's Divine Protection, composed by Fire Emblem Queen Yuka Tsujioko, who also worked on the Paper Mario games. She's been with Intelligent Systems for over 30 years. And I'm sort of combining all 3 of our inputs here because Niki brought on a Yuka Tsujioko track earlier with that lovely Thracia 776 song. And Mike, you might remember that you did an episode on arrangements from Super Smash Brothers games several months ago.
Yep.
So for this track, I'm bringing on the Super Smash Brothers Brawl arrangement of With Mila's Divine Protection. It's an arrangement I like a lot. And who did that arrangement? It was Noriyuki Iwadare,
Oh, wow.
which who also composed the Langrisser song that Audra brought on earlier this episode. So we're combining Yuka Tsujioko, Super Smash Brothers, Noriyuki Iwadare, and when I was on the NES episode several months ago, I considered bringing this song along then as well, but I ultimately didn't. So yeah, please enjoy the Super Smash Brothers Brawl version of With Mila's Divine Protection.
Wow. That's a
Play
mic drop.
Shadows of Valentia. Let's go.
The Shadows of Valentia arrangement of that song also great, but this one has more funky guitar in it, so I could not resist the acoustic guitar.
Yeah, that's a great choice. I can't wait to listen. Niki, that was your perfect choice to give us a good, it's all connected because somehow
yes,
you pulled
it is
all
all
of the
connected.
stuff together.
Oh my god.
It is.
Amazing.
I can't believe it. And Smash Brothers Melee was the first Fire Emblem game, remember?
In North America, yes.
Well,
wow.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And also, Super Smash Brothers Melee had Roy in it before Roy's game even came out. Roy was an advertisement for Fire Emblem Binding Blade back in '99.
That's true. All right. Well, let's go listen to your bonus track, and thank you everyone for listening, and thank all of you for being here. We'll see you next time.
Crossfire! I can't be the only one that remembers that commercial. I can't.
I remember it. I'm worried that no one else
good.
does, so you and I are dating ourselves.
Okay. I've never played that board game, but they made it look like the coolest thing in the world in 1993 or whenever that was around.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it was hard to not see that commercial constantly.
Those toy commercials really did dominate like the cartoon blocks of television that I scheduled my life around.
Oh yeah. The extreme tabletop and board game commercials like that, and every action figure commercial was always kids playing like on some like weird stage covered in dirt. I'm like, they're never at home. They're always like, well, we recreated the moon, and that's where we're playing with our Transformers.
A lot of super soakers and Nerf weapons on those commercials as well. I had a number of those over the years, so the marketing worked on me.
Yeah.
And I think my parents just like, oh God, he wants to play outside. Thank God.
Right.
And then you were disappointed that it wasn't on the moon.